So hey guys, today we're going to be talking about the strongest card in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! So immediately, some of you guys, I would honestly just, yeah, I'll say it. Some of you guys just are a bit like brain off, perhaps brain dead even, if I may be that cruel. But yeah, a lot of you guys might be thinking, oh well, Maxx is the most broken card in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, yesn't. So of course, drawing cards with Maxi is really good, but Maxi, well, it's useless kind of on its own, right? So quality of your cards, of course, matters with Maxi, and certain cards are better than others. So let's assume we pass on Maxi or we Maxi against like an FTK, right? So you have to actually draw into a card to stop yourself from getting OTK'd or FTK'd for the Maxi to have any value. So if you actually don't draw into any hand traps, it doesn't do anything. So if you're running mostly engine, it's not really going to do anything. So let's assume we're playing, I don't know, let's say uh, Hero, sure. And then we just draw Increase twice. And then our opponent like passes back even. Then what did that Maxi do for you? Uh, then it actually messed your play up because you can't summon Increase from deck anymore. So yeah, you lose. But yeah, that's not exactly what this video is about though. So today we're focusing on the single best card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Under these specific conditions. So we are going to be main decking 40 copies of a card. And in this case, yeah, Maxi is actually garbage. So, of course, Maxi, this, even if you draw like 17 times and you just keep drawing into Maxi, what's that going to do for you? Assuming your opponent also, uh, like, well, they're also playing under these conditions, then, yeah, even if they summon 17 times, they just don't really care because the only card you have in your deck is Maxi, so, yeah. Uh, yeah, this doesn't really do much, and Maxi's stat line is really bad, and you can just normal summon Maxi, not do much else. So, yeah, that's not great. So, cards that search, of course, as well. Yeah, just search a card. That could be a relatively powerful card. Uh, those are also bad, because what are you gonna do about it, right? Well, you're not going to be able to search like anything because, well, unless your card can search itself, I guess. But even then, it doesn't matter because you have 5 copies of whatever card in your hand that you just played because, we're only running one card in our main deck 40 times. So, yeah. What card under these conditions would be the strongest? So, Foolish Burial Goods. Send Foolish Burial Goods. Not that great. So, what about Kushtira Fenrir? So, Kushtira Fenrir. We could add a copy of Kushtira Fenrir from our deck to the hand. And also, we just sit on this Kushtira Fenrir. What does this realistically do for us? I mean, it does a little bit, but we still have to somewhat figure out what our opponent could play. So, opponent could also be playing like Fossil Dyna, so that they just would gradually normal summon Fossil Dyna, and hopefully you picked a special summon guy, and they'll just keep summoning Fossil Dyna until it can kill you and attack over you. But that's just one possible idea, and there even is the idea of being able to set Fossil Dyna, and then if your opponent has a special summon guy, and they can't remove a face-down Fossil Dyna, then Fossil Dyna effect can actually destroy your opponent's special summon card. So right now, I gotta say, Fossil Dyna looking potentially very high tier. But at the same time, that this can be, well, defeated by any normal summon. Like, yeah. So if we had, for example, I don't know, let's go with Razin. And normal summon Razin attack, and then you just lose, if your opponent just is on just 40 copies of Razin, or anything that can be normal summon that's bigger than Fossil Dyna. This only beats specifically cards that special summon. So pretty interesting, I guess. So what else might be kind of strong? So if we have 40 copies of one card, there's also the idea of potentially doing something like, instead of running a monster, does it have to even be a monster? We could run a trap or a spell instead. So if we were against just Fenrir, Fenrir is actually not that big of a deal. There is this idea, so but what if we just had Cauldron of the Old Man? So what if we have just copies of Cauldron of the Old Man? Our opponent can, if they were on Fenrir, for example, they can't really do anything about this. On Fossil Dyna, can't really do anything about this. So every single turn, we would be assumed to have like 5 Cauldrons, right? And then we'd be able to activate the effect of gain 500 LP for each counter on this card. So the next turn, because our opponent probably can't lethal us, honestly, with only one main deck card. Gain 500 LP for each counter on this card, so we have 5 copies of Cauldron, so we can gain 2.5k, and then the next turn we can gain 5k, right? Or we can burn for 1.5k, next turn burn for 3k. So this probably pretty S-tiered, now that I'm thinking about it, right? Like, pretty hard to beat. There's also the idea of like, something like a Gorzon, ironically, could be kind of hard to deal with, depending on exactly what we're playing here. Or like, Pancratops. Pancratops just requires your opponent to control more monsters than you do, right? So we could potentially also summon multiple Pancratops. So that's pretty interesting. But so far, I think our top runner is going to have to be Cauldron, because you want to be able to game your opponent and do like a lot. So back row is actually kind of hard to deal with. But if we were to be running, for example, like 40 copies of Lightning Storm or Duster, we have no win condition, and yeah, you probably just lose. So yeah, that's kind of how that goes, right? So what other strategies do we have? There's the idea of perhaps messing around with this, I guess. Special summon up to 2 Nimble Masabi from your deck to your opponent's side in face-up attack position. Yeah, that's not that great. I would not want 40 copies of that. I'll say that with absolute certainty. So, what else? I guess it'd be easier if we start looking at ultras and go from there. See if there's any good ultras that we just run 40 copies of. So, oh, this is a pretty disgusting way to win. So card destruction. If we run 60 copies of card destruction, then we're guaranteed to win if we can activate our copies of card destruction. Well, oh, that's pretty strong. There's no hard ones per turn on card destruction, so card destruction, activate that like 8 times, 10 times, however many times, and then your opponent will just lose to deck out, potentially. But if our opponent is on like Cauldron of the Old Man, actually, and they went first, they would activate like every single Cauldron, and we would just be decking ourselves out with card destruction. And actually, we can only activate card destruction so many times, because every single time we activate card destruction, we're essentially going -1. So we can only activate this 5 times. So yeah, generously, this would like be like 25 cards milled. So yeah, that's probably not enough to lethal, right? Or to deck our opponent out. So seemed good, but when we think a little deeper, not that great. Danger monsters are pretty good as well, being able to special summon these guys. And then, now that I think about it, we can't special summon Danger Bigfoot, because if Danger Bigfoot hits Danger Bigfoot does not special summon itself, despite it being a different copy of Danger Bigfoot that you snipe in your hand. So, dangers. All of those guys do not work. And then we have, let's see, City, completely useless, doesn't do anything by itself. Okay. Psychic Rover. I don't think we can do anything with that. Uh, Carvara. Unplayable. Lubellion. Not really that useful. But if we are playing with Bestials, actually, Bestials are not that bad either. Because what we can do, it's not going to be immediate, but if we let ourselves reach hand size limit, we'll be able to discard a Bestial to then banish said Bestial to summon a Bestial. So that's an idea, I guess. And all of these guys are kind of useless. Yep. A not bad idea, I guess, would be like Mirror Force as well. There is a Mirror Force that actually, I believe, burns our opponent. So if we just had 40 copies of that, that could be strong. So let's see which one it was. There are a lot of mirror cards here. Okay, so this one, this one, this one. Nope. If you do take damage, blah blah, then inflict damage to your opponent equal to the damage you took. Oh, so you take the damage first, so that's no good. Okay. But Quaking is pretty strong, although you have no win condition. If you get all of your opponent's monsters to be face down and they can't change their battle positions, that's probably pretty strong. So this type of effect, if you could somehow get this off with only just one copy of itself and still have like some kind of win con left over, seems like a pretty good strategy, honestly. Like just in general, seems pretty good. So the main issue is just not having like a win con. As far as I can tell, the strongest card might be just Cauldron of the Old Man. So for example with Fenrir, Fenrir is a pretty strong card, but you can only really control one copy of Fenrir, and then you would not be able to special summon another copy of Fenrir, nor normal summon Fenrir. And then at most you can remove like one copy of Cauldron. And let's say we remove one copy of Cauldron, the math doesn't really check out, and you will just lose eventually to Cauldron, right? No matter like what you target or do with the Fenrir, so that's an idea, right? I guess there is also the idea of actually like if we could manage it, we could give our opponent like 5 really bad cards, and then that would block them out of monsters, assuming their deck comprised of only like one monster, right? Then if that monster cannot be tribute summoned, like if it was a Fenrir, they might be okay, but if they can't do that, then they would lose, right? That's kind of interesting, actually. Hmm. Planet Pathfinder, bad, bad, bad. A lot of cards are bad if they're the only card in your deck, unsurprisingly, I guess. So, main thing is not having a win condition, even if some cards are win conditions themselves. So Fossil Dyna could be good, or it could be really bad. It's kind of dependent, I guess. Some of the Koikimeru cards might be interesting, actually. Just potentially. If we're looking for, like, a card that can do something and be a win con, like, ideally, I think the most optimal play is to, like, perhaps Floodgate our opponent, or be very hard to interact with, like Cauldron. I don't think anything beats Cauldron. Unless there's just a card that we could just straight up, like, FTK, or, like, insta-kill our opponent in a dumb way if we have multiple copies of. So now that I think about it, there's some burn cards, like, I don't know, Just Desserts. So it doesn't have to be Just Desserts. I think there was a different one, right? Secret Barrel. This is also, like, fairly strong, technically, right? Would this be enough? Our opponent has probably 6 cards, assuming we're going first, and we have 5 copies of Secret Barrel, so that's 1.2k times 5. So that's 6,000, so you're still short 2,000, so that's actually not going to be lethal. So I think this is probably the best burn card that you could realistically play, I think. Like, well, I mean, Cauldron exists, but just pure burn card. Secret Barrel is probably the best one, and it's just not going to get it done. So, if it was pre-errata, like, what's called Ring of Destruction, I think that would be pretty strong as well, because I believe you can actually win with that card, but I'm not like 100% sure if you can or not, but okay. I think you could, but like don't quote me on that. I mean that'd be worth consideration then, but you're guaranteed to lose off of it, I believe, because it burns you first and it doesn't burn your opponent at the same time, so you can't even draw off of it now. So it would just be a guaranteed loss. And also your opponent's monster's attack points would have to be a factor, I believe it's called, of 8,000. So that's not great. Yeah, well, whatever the number is, that it has to be uh well a certain number that is divisible enough to get you to 8,000. So it would have to be something like 1,500, 8,000, 4,000, 2,000. Uh, so something like that, I guess. How about this Montage Dragon? Sending 3 Elder cards. Oh, that can include itself. So it's 300, so 8 times 300 times 3, I guess. Uh, wait, what did I just say? Brain. Okay, so 8 times 300 times 3. 7,200 if we were running pure Montage Dragon. But there is no hard ones per turn on this, right? So, wait, we wouldn't have enough monsters to do this, but we would be able to summon Montage Dragon multiple times, which is saying something, but we wouldn't be able to summon like 2 on the same turn if we were to have a full Montage Dragon deck. So this sends 3 other cards, meaning we're down to 2 cards in hand, assuming we were going second. So we would have to wait like another 2 full turns before being able to summon another Montage Dragon. So that's not great. It definitely wouldn't do well against Fossil Dino either. Time Wizard. This could be interesting, honestly, if we could call right. That would do like a lot of damage over time, but it's half the total attack, so I think it mathematically doesn't add up. So Time Wizard, probably just like F tier. It does include its own attack, so if it was a really low attack monster, I guess maybe it works out. I mean, yeah, doubtful. Not great. If we throw in the extra deck, it might change. Well, it might change some considerations, but for the most part, I'm not like seeing anything super good. But like one idea that we could do if we had like Griffin in particular, DD Griffin can special summon itself if we control another DD monster, including itself. So we could use this to make Gilgamesh scale 2 copies of Griffin, because why not make DS Machinex pass? And then it's just a 3k guy. So that's like not the worst thing in the world, I guess. But we could also like link these guys off for a lot of things. It's to affect monsters on the field, you know. But I guess we could also run like maybe some sprite cards in that case, because sprite cards are not that bad now that I think about it. So if we were to run sprite cards, actually, if we had copies of sprite cards, if extra deck were allowed, sprite would be pretty strong in general. The issue with sprite specifically, I think, is that they have really low attack, so you're going to get stuck. If we play only copies of red or carrot, we also can only negate monster effects, we can't negate destroy, so that's a thing. So if we were running Therions, though, there's the idea that these Therions can be played the same way as the Bestials, so we can just wait for hand size limit to discard to then summon, but we wouldn't be able to summon on our opponent's turn, so we're likely just dead if we try this. So yeah. In conclusion, I think, yeah, Cauldron of the Old Man. I think we can, like, with decent confidence, say Cauldron of the Old Man is the strongest card in Yu-Gi-Oh! If you were running specifically 40 cards of just one copy, or of 40 cards of just one card, this is the strongest card in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And do I have doubts about this? Now I'm like relatively confident. I'm like 80% sure that there's nothing like that really beats Cauldron. And I'd be relatively surprised if there is anything. Aside from that, I mean, there's like certain strategies you could play that like stalemate your opponent essentially, which aren't good, and Cauldron beats those for the most part, unless you were to like run 60 copies of like Duster or something. That'd be a little bit annoying. I don't think there's a card that like lets you pop a spell trap and then do burn, because if that existed, that would really counter Cauldron. Because the thing is, I can't really see anything that beats Cauldron. Like, I can't imagine it in the slightest. Just real quick though, gotta check Denko Sekka. Neither player can set spell trap cards, nor activate spell trap cards that are set on the field. Yep, that doesn't stop Cauldron. Nope. And anything that would stop Cauldron and still be like decent against other things? Yeah, I don't think so. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.